Bum, 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 doo, doo, doo. The truth set you free. In an age of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. All right, let's take this bad boy out for another spin and see what happens. That was never happened to me before. What can I say? A lot of the times I let you remove the music later, which is what I usually do. But hey, it is what it is. This is fair use. This is a review, and we're going to keep going. So we're going to try one more time. And there we are, not really tripping out, not really worried about it. What are you going to do? Welcome to Mafia Mondays, the Redux. All right, so here we go. I had some other stuff on deck here. So we're going to get into a little more Sam Giancana and something with less music. So we're going to stop this screen share and we're going to share something else over here. And this really gets into more of, we're just going to do a little bit of introducing you to Sam. With that beginning there, but that's okay. I understand. I'll start over and we'll do something different here, YouTube, so everybody calms the F down. And let's just get right back into it. And we are going to talk a little bit more about Sam Giancana. So right here. There we go.
October 1939, Sam Giancana had been sentenced to 4 years for being involved in running an alcohol still. The 31-year-old had made a name for himself in the Chicago underworld under the tutelage of men such as Murray Humphreys, Paul Ricca, and Tony Accardo. Now forced to cool his heels at Terre Haute Penitentiary in Indiana, Giancana would ponder his next move. During his stay at Terre Haute, Giancana would meet an important man. The introduction to the newly found friend would trigger a series of events that would lead to Giancana being a serious player in Chicago's outfit. The man in question was Eddie Jones. Jones was the leader of a gambling racket called Policy. It was a lottery that was particularly popular in African American communities at the time. A player would buy a ticket costing a nickel and choose 3 numbers. The prize money was $30, sometimes less, and every day a numbered wheel was spun 3 times, giving the results to the lottery. As simple as it sounded, the illegal racket was making young black men very wealthy. Giancana was immediately gripped on hearing about Jones and the lucrative Policy business. The two became friends, and Jones even agreed that when he got out, he and Giancana would go into business together. With Giancana's connections and Jones' grip on the Policy market, it could be a winning combination. Well, that's what Jones thought anyway. When Giancana was finally released just before Christmas 1942,
Now,
He'd tell his youngest brother, Chucky.
Now, what I was saying earlier before the stream got cut, and that's fine. It was for some music stuff, and no harm, no foul. It happens, it happens. Here we are. And I'm still going to bring you the story because this is a fascinating man. And this, when you are connecting, like I said, JFK to the mob, this is the guy, okay? This is the guy. Frank Sinatra, the Rat Pack, Peter Lawford, the marriages, the weddings. This is only going to be part one of what we're going to talk about with Sam Giancana and his involvement with the Kennedys.
This Jones has everything. He's invested in money in legitimate investments, a Ben Franklin store, 4 hotels, a food market, and several apartment buildings. But most of all, this guy has real estate. He's got a place here, a villa in Mexico, and one in France. You got to see this guy's wife. She's a Cotton Club beauty. She dresses in chic outfits, diamonds, furs, you name it. Really something. The guy's house here is beautiful too. Antique tapestries, oil paintings, and real gold fixtures. This guy's got it made. I thought these black kids were lazy. Boy, was I wrong. These guys are making real money over here, Giancana told his young brother. Chucky would picture the scene like a young child being told a captivating bedtime story. He could see the look on his brother's face and knew what he was thinking. Giancana wanted what Jones had, and why shouldn't he? He had come far growing up on the mean streets of the Patch. Part of a violent young gang called the 42s, Giancana learnt his trade in violence, murder, and extortion. The 42s were seen as an extension of the outfit. However, some of the old-timers saw them as being too wild. Giancana had shown the leaders that he was a capable enforcer, but he knew that if he wanted to make it big in the outfit, he'd have to give the bosses what they loved the most: money. And lots of it. Eddie
Money.
Jones was
a.k.a. in Italian, soldi, okay? Sammy Davis Jr. was in the Rat Pack, in fact. And, with his Sammy Davis and Frank Sinatra was a great, he broke a lot of the racial lines when it came to Las Vegas and some of the other places where some of these guys would perform. Essentially, Frank, it was the Sands. Sammy Davis was, I don't like keep saying this because this is just horrible, but Sammy Davis was not allowed in the pool. He was not allowed to stay. And Frank said, let me tell you something, sugar face, sugar tits. If Sammy can't be around, well, then guess who else is not around? Frankie. Frankie don't do no show without my bro. Okay? No bro, a no show. So that was essentially it. So Frank really was, and I went to Frank Sinatra's 75th birthday, by the way, birthday party, which I will show. It's actually on YouTube. And I will bring it into the clips. I'll show you guys that next week on the next Mafia. Which is going to be part 2 of Sam Giancana, so let's keep going.
Was just the ticket. Giancana set up a meeting with Tony Accardo to discuss the idea of the outfit moving into the policy rackets. Accardo was a serious guy, known as Joe Batters, or simply as JB, a moniker he was given for using a baseball bat as his preferred weapon of choice when exacting punishment on those who had upset the outfit.
What would you guys have, do you think, as your nickname? If you guys had a mobster nickname, by the way, here's one of the tools that were used back in those days. Okay, so this is there's a pair of brass knuckles. This is before days of everybody just shooting each other, you know. But yeah, pair of the old Sicilian key card right here. This will get you in any place.
Outfit. He'd risen through the ranks of the underworld to become one of its leading men. The Chicago outfit hadn't a clue that vast money was being made by the black community in the policy rackets. Accardo gave Giancana his blessing to get the job done. Once he was given the green light, his men would slowly maneuver themselves into positions where they'd start muscling in on the rackets. Close friends of Eddie Jones warned him about his ties with the Italians. They thought allowing them into the rackets would be a recipe for disaster, but the policy king of Chicago ignored the warnings. In December 1943, the leading figures of the Chicago outfit were sent to jail. It was an unplanned setback. The front man for the outfit at the time, a man by the name of Frank Nitti, was meant to take the fall for the case, but instead, Nitti put a gun to his own head and blew his brains out. As a result, the de facto head of the outfit, a man by the name of Paul the Waiter Ricca, was sent to jail.
Some of these parts of this story, this part in history, gosh, what was that Kevin Costner movie with Sean Connery about? I can't remember the name. Hey guys, what's the name of that movie with Sean Connery? And it was about like Prohibition time and Kevin Costner, The Untouchables. There we go. It was The Untouchables. Isn't that just like a whoop brings a knife to a gunfight? That's Sean Connery, a line from the film. And that name, by the way, as an Italian, you hear I've heard people call me that. And that just essentially means without papers. So that's what it was. And sorry, but my grandfather did have shit, man, that light just got my eye. Ooh. Okay. Let's go.
Along with other members of the outfit. Seeing the silver lining, Giancana took the opportunity to forge closer ties with Accardo, who was now running the show in Ricca's absence. With the outfit leaders behind bars, the ambitious Giancana sensed an opportunity to move up the ladder. He decided to kidnap a man called Jacob Greasy Thumb Guzik. Guzik was a leading figure in the outfit and Al Capone's right-hand man since the early days. Guzik was a genius with numbers and was instrumental in the outfit thriving in its ventures over the decades. As Guzik's eyes began to adjust to the light, he saw a shadowy figure standing in front of him. It was Giancana. You know, Jake, I got a lot of respect for you. You taught me the ropes, but things have moved on now. I'm not a kid anymore. I went to college, did my time, and I kept my mouth shut. Now I got...
When he says, I went to college, he does not mean... I just hope you guys understand this. When he says, I went to college, he does not mean the university. He's talking about prison. He went to college. He did his time. He kept his mouth shut. He did his thing like a G. Omerta, Cosa Nostra, right? That's the way that they would do it back then. This is like the real proper gangsters, right? This is when they still had rules, not these not gonna cowboys nowadays. You know what I'm saying?
Gotta get what's coming to me. I know you got everyone's ear at the top. I need you to put some good words in for me with the guys up there and make some room. Guzik knew he meant with Ricca, Accardo, and Humphreys.
He wanted to put
you
him on the books.
You got a choice, Jake. You can take this. Giancana slid a bag over to Guzik. There's $200,000 in there. You can take it and do what I asked you, or I can keep the money and you don't leave here. It took Guzik 2 days of deliberation to be finally persuaded to take the money and do what Giancana wanted.
It took that long?
And true to his word, he did. Giancana's maneuvering worked. What was left of the syndicate after Ricca's jail term fell into place. Giancana's ascension to the top would be aided soon after when he was appointed as Tony Accardo's driver, a powerful position in the mob as they would hear all outfit business. A year later, in 1946, he was made underboss in the Chicago outfit. Eddie Jones was released in 19...
Okay, now what I want to touch on is what an underboss actually is. The underboss is very important, all right? The underboss, which if we want to look at another family, we could look at about John Gotti and Sammy the Bull Gravano. Sammy the Bull Gravano was the underboss. The underboss controls the ear, okay, of the heads of the families, right?
45 and went straight back to the policy wheels downtown.
Lots more.
It was a day in early May 1946 when Eddie Jones and his wife Lydia had just dropped off a cashier in their Ben Franklin store. As the limo driver was returning to his car after walking the cashier into her building, he saw two men rush over to the limousine and drag Jones out of the car. The men were armed with sawn-off shotguns and had their faces covered with handkerchiefs. As they dragged the policy king from the car, his wife Lydia tried to cling to his neck and was screaming. In seconds, they had pulled him into the back of a getaway vehicle and, accompanied by a second car, sped off.
Well, what my point was about that, Shady, is that you never underestimate the underboss. Like I said, the underboss is the one that brings everything to the boss. Nobody got to Gotti without going through Sammy the Bull. Sammy the Bull didn't really want that job. I think if Sammy was the boss, ended up being the boss of that whole Gambino crew, then they would still be operating at a lot higher level. I don't think Sammy would have gone to prison. I think they might have whacked him after a while. Somebody want to make a come up because he's an older guy now. But Sammy had a lot more power and control than people realize. And Gotti was someone who just called the plays. Sammy executed them, so to speak.
The screaming had got the attention of a police car. It gave chase, but when a volley of shots rained down on it from the backup car, injuring one of the officers, the pursuit ended. Jones was held for ransom in a basement in Oak Park. A few days later, a $250,000 ransom was paid, and Jones was freed with tape over his eyes and cotton stuffed into his ears. Giancana.
By the way, that was Dominic Izzo's house, that basement. That was Dominic Izzo's house, just so you know.
Gave Jones an ultimatum. Either get the fuck out of town or take a bullet to the head. Jones got the message loud and clear and quickly moved his family far away. Giancana now controlled all of Eddie Jones' wheels, impressing Accardo and the others mightily, and by August he had gained complete control of all of Chicago's numbers game. There was only one man that stood in Giancana's way for complete domination over the policy rackets. Teddy Rowe was an African-American policy boss who built an illegal gambling empire in Southside Chicago during the 1940s and 1950s. Rowe earned the nickname Robin Hood because of his philanthropy among the neighborhood poor. He started off as a humble tailor's assistant until he met Eddie Jones. Jones would teach Rowe about the policy rackets, and it wasn't long before he started climbing the ladder in the business. Rowe was effectively the last man standing in the outfit's way. Instead of fleeing or giving up his business, the tough racketeer held firm against the outfit. Giancana was hesitant to kill Rowe. He respected him and what he'd achieved, and most of all, Rowe wasn't a punk. He'd held off numerous attempts to take over his business. Giancana bided his time. Sooner or later, Rowe would slip up, and Giancana would take control. Giancana was getting tired of not being able to take over the last policy business standing. He sent his main lieutenant, Fat Lenny Caifano, to try to work out a partnership with him, but Roe refused. They bombed Roe's house, sent him threatening packages, and even offered him $250,000 to leave. Still, Roe refused to give up his operations. He became a hero in the black community and was nicknamed the Robin Hood of policy. In reality, the outfit was already pleased with the takeover of the numbers game and was not concerned about the Roe situation. To Giancana, however, Roe's resistance was a constant source of frustration, and he finally decided to kidnap Roe and hold him until he gave in. After all, it had worked with Eddie Jones. Fat Lenny...
See, this was the style of the outfit. If you had something, and they wanted it, they took it.
Caifano was chosen to lead the plot to bring Roe into the fold. A charismatic, jovial man weighing 400 pounds, Fat Leonard Caifano had been a close friend of Giancana's since their days in the 42s. He'd even played Santa Claus to Giancana's daughter Antoinette while her father was in prison. On June 19, 1951, while riding in his car, Roe noticed the vehicle behind him flashing its lights. He pulled over and got out to face down what was coming. "It's time," Caifano said to the two men with him, one of them his brother, as they all climbed out of the car. At exactly the same moment, Roe's 3 bodyguards, off-duty policemen, appeared out of nowhere and started shooting. Caifano took a slug in his temple. His partners, despite one also taking a hit, were able to leap back into the car. They sped off, leaving Caifano to die in a pool of blood. The bodyguards took off as well. When the police arrived, Roe said he'd killed Caifano in self-defense. Years later, when Giancana's daughter Antoinette heard of Caifano's death, she recalled her first Christmas when Sam was away in prison. "I guess for as long as I live, I will never forget the moment or the fact that the man in the red suit was Fat Leonard. He had bought those skates for me. He had rented the red suit and played Santa Claus so that a little girl wouldn't lose her belief in Santa Claus.
Oh, man.
It is hard even now to realize that Fat Leonard was one of Sam's professional killers, a man who lived by the gun and eventually died by it. Sam was upset with the 2 men he'd sent with Caifano on the road job. One of his strictest rules stemming from his days with the 42s was never, ever leave one of your own behind. He let the 2 men live, but made sure they'd never move up in the outfit. At Caifano's funeral, Giancana said the words that were on everyone's mind. "Roe's a fucking dead man." Not only had Roe refused to give up his business, he'd now killed Santa, albeit in self-defense.
Hey, everybody, make sure you hit that like button for me. Do us a favor. Smash the like button. If you are not subscribed to my channel, make sure you are. I got over 100 videos on this bad boy. Everyone a guaranteed rabbit hole. And once again, I am Tony D, your host. Welcome to the Veritas Machine. You can also find me on Instagram, Twitter. We are streaming now on we got Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. So hello, everybody. Welcome from all over the place, from the pineapple to the Big Apple. Yes, right. That's right. Whacked.
The Santa suit was stored away, never to be worn again.
Also, I would guess not. Until it was given to Bobby Bacala.
On August 4th, 1952, 2 men waited in a Chevrolet across from Roe's home. He emerged at 10 p.m. This time, there were no bodyguards in sight. As he walked to his car, 2 men ran up behind him and opened fire with shotguns. The force of the shots lifted Roe off his feet and into a tree before he ended up in the gutter. It was the end of the tough policy boss of Chicago.
Oof. He smoked his motherfucking boots.
What Giancana didn't know was that Roe had been diagnosed with terminal cancer and was not expected to live much longer anyway.
Oh, jeez.
It was one of the reasons why Roe decided against being accompanied by his bodyguards. He had balls. It was a fucking shame to kill him, the FBI recorded Giancana saying in the 1970s. After his wife's death, Giancana began work on a family mausoleum. He announced that his father's remains would be placed there too. One day Chuck visited the site, surprised to find his brother there. Ever notice how the sunlight and the shadows make a cemetery look like rows of piano keys? Sam said as he stared out across the graves, then continued, I noticed it when I first came out here. When I did, well, I kind of realized something. It's all one big fucking game, Chuck. No matter what tune you play, this is where you end up. Death. It's the great equalizer. As 1955 was drawing to a close, Accardo wanted to take a backseat role in the running of the outfit. After being heavily scrutinized by the IRS, he decided he wanted to move out of the limelight. The two men came to an agreement. Giancana would run the show, with Accardo staying on as an advisor. Giancana had finally reached his goal. He was now boss of the outfit. He held a party on New Year's Eve and invited everyone from the outfit. It was a memorable night. Giancana was in a playful mood, even getting involved in shaving cream fights with the rest of the guests. Chuck recalled many years later. It was nice to see my brother let his hair down, and it was rare to see him like that in front of the guys, but it was great. We had great camaraderie that night. Business would always take precedence over partying for Giancana, and in 1957, that involved murder. A banker named Leon Marcus was indicted for embezzling bank funds. Under pressure from police, he decided to use his relationship with Giancana as a get-out-of-jail card. Marcus handled many transactions for Giancana, such as the purchase of the River Road Motel in Rosemont in 1956. He renamed it to the Thunderbolt, and the place was heavily renovated to Giancana's specification. He used his brother Chuck to run it as a legitimate business. No one knows if it was Marcus's naivety or his sheer stupidity that would prompt his next move. He decided to blackmail Giancana in his upcoming trial, saying that if he didn't help him, he'd spill the beans about his dealings. This was not a smart move. 7 out of 10 times when we hit a guy, we're wrong, Giancana once said. But the other 3 times we hit, we make up for it. This would be one of the 3 right
just, you gotta
times.
play the odds.
Giancana no longer did hits himself. He'd give this one to Willie Potatoes Daidano. Daidano then dispatched Sal Moretti, not only to kill Marcus, but more importantly, to retrieve the $100,000 cash bill of sale from the banker's wallet. On March 31, 1957, Leon Marcus was eliminated. Moretti invited friends so they could enjoy the killing of Marcus. However, Moretti foolishly forgot to retrieve the bill of sale from Marcus's pockets, along with traveler's checks and cash, which ruled out robbery as being a motive for the slaying. Police quickly found the bill of sale and pulled in Giancana for questioning. 3 days later, the body of Sal Moretti had been found in the trunk of an abandoned car. His body had been stuffed into a dry cleaning bag. There were deep lacerations in his skull, burn marks on his wrists, and cuts on both knees. He'd been shot 4 times, twice in the head. The labels on his clothes had been cut off, making identification harder for police. The only item remaining in the body, however, was an aluminum comb, a warning to others. always to comb clean any crime scene or end up like Moretti. Giancana attended Moretti's wake with his...
Now, there's lots of Sicilian messages when it comes to a lot of these hits, and we're going to go over a lot of it. It's going to be quite a Monday night that we're going to have here for a while. Let's see, I got
his daughter
else,
Antoinette.
Downloading here for
Years later, she found out that Moretti was murdered on the orders of her father. It would be the end of one chapter and the beginning of another.
All right, so we are going to get into another thing right here. Give me a second. I have something downloading right now. So, you guys, if you have any other people that you would like to see me cover on Mafia Mondays, do not hesitate to put in the comment section for me. And we are going to get into this other section here about see here. Okay. And make sure everybody puts their mafia name in the chat, please. If you have a mafia name, we're going to need to have that information, please. Dead fish in a car. You remember in, sorry about that, I was just distracted by the download. You remember in The Godfather, when they said Luca Brasi, it's a Sicilian message. It means Luca Brasi sleeps with the fishes. Marlon Brando didn't say that line. But anytime you do a Godfather line, you have to try. All right, let's see. I'm almost done here. Okay, now this second quadrant of the series here, I've got plenty of stuff pulled. Whoa! I got plenty of stuff pulled. I just got to adjust the holy Jeeba Beavers. Wowza. Okay, let me get this shared here. You're going to like this one. And if you stay till the end of the video, I'm giving away a Buick. I'm not giving away a Buick. I'm just kidding. We are going to get into just another segment of history here because, remember, this is a series. We're going to do this in a couple parts.
The leader of Chicago's crime syndicate was shot dead last night in his suburban Chicago home. Giancana, known as Momo, was 65. In recent weeks, Giancana had achieved additional notoriety because of claims from various sources that he was involved in CIA plots to murder Fidel Castro. Ron Miller has more on the Giancana murder.
So this, hold on.
Momo Giancana was no stranger to notoriety, and some say he enjoyed all the attention that a crime boss receives. He was in and out of court during his criminal career.
Now, it was said that Sam Giancana had a hand in attempting to assassinate Castro, Kennedy, and you're
arrested more than 40
this is a little bit later than the Kennedy
during his 50
assassination.
years in the
We're going to be covering
underworld,
that too.
Giancana developed numerous alliances. He also developed numerous enemies. Giancana dropped out of view during the past several weeks. He was reportedly hospitalized for surgery. But last night, the police saw Giancana again. When the police arrived, they found Mr. Giancana laying on the floor.
Oh, that's a good one, Mandy.
Been shot numerous times in the upper part of his body and throat. Approximately 6 shots believed to be fired from a .22 caliber weapon. And that's about all the police
from a .22 caliber weapon over there.
In the basement of his home in a fashionable Chicago suburb.
Chris Walken is always here.
But predictably, no one saw or heard anything. Police speculate Giancana.
You know, when I met Sam Giancana, I was very impressed with primarily his manner of dress, his suit, and his tie. Meticulous.
Knew his murderer. There was no sign of a struggle,
great man.
No sign of a break-in. It was all very professional, although the .22 caliber weapon used in the killing is unusual in crime syndicate murders. Giancana had extensive gambling interests in Cuba before Fidel Castro came to power. He and the crime syndicate did not like giving up those lucrative holdings. Giancana was frequently singer Phyllis McGuire's escort. He obviously enjoyed it. He did not enjoy, however, the legal maneuvering that forced him to cooperate with a federal grand jury in recent months. Criminals were speculating about how much Giancana was telling the jury, and they were apparently nervous about his alleged link with the CIA.
If it's true that Giancana did some work for the CIA, or contracted to do some work for him, again, it's a possibility that mobsters might be afraid of an anticipated subpoena from a congressional committee.
This is David Shoemaker in Washington. Those familiar with the mafia's relationship with the CIA explain it as a healthy mix of patriotism and self-interest. It is apparently true that Sam Giancana served as a go-between, putting one of his former lieutenants, Johnny Roselli, at the service of the CIA when the agency reportedly wanted Fidel Castro killed. That was in the early 1960s. But it is also true, ABC News has learned, that even in the late 1960s, Giancana was still trying to have Castro killed for reasons of his own. The Chicago mobster took part in a mafia summit meeting in Miami, the syndicate seeking revenge for Castro's nationalization of its gambling casinos. A hitman was sent via Mexico to do the job, but he fared no better than Roselli's men did for the CIA. There was a time when Senate investigators did want to talk with Giancana, but once Roselli agreed to testify, their interest cooled. And the ranking Republican on the Select Committee, John Tower, was asked about that today.
The committee, of course, notes with interest that Mr. Giancana was done away with. He had been contacted by some of our staff in the matter of trying to get information on the Roselli matter. The committee had not made a determination to call him as a witness. And, of course, now the matter is quite moot.
CIA Director William Colby marched in with his lieutenants this morning, assured the senators that the CIA severed its working relationship with the mafia some time ago. A relationship.
Now, they said the CIA severed their ties with the mafia, which is an admission. I don't know about that, Shady. I couldn't confirm or deny that. I don't, that Trudeau guy, man. And that Jordan Peterson, just a fucking accent. It's not thick. I love Canadians. Don't get me wrong. Canadian girlfriends. I've had some, very, very lovely Canadian girlfriends. However, Trudeau is not for me.
Which, according to a lawyer for one mobster, had become embarrassing for both organizations. David Shoemaker, ABC News, Washington.
Well, this is shaping up as a bad week in Washington for the big...
Does anybody know who that is? Can anybody in the chat name this man? Considered to be one of the pioneer American television journalists. I'll give you a little time here because I know there's a delay in the chat. So I'm just going to wait here for a second. You tell me who this is or who you think it is. If it's that young. All right. This is Walter Cronkite. All right. Please, he was considered to be one of the greatest journalists of all time.
Brother aspects of government with several
television
involving snooping and undercover activities. Today, the Senate CIA investigators...
Or maybe it's just because he was around during a lot of historic events. Like he's the one that announced Kennedy's death. He'd be the one that you associate with that
world
news.
Figure
right?
John Roselli about an alleged CIA mafia plot to assassinate Fidel Castro. Daniel Shore reports.
And JFK. But
heavily guarded as might
let's
be
not talk about
expected
that.
after Sam Giancana's death, Roselli slipped up and down back stairs at the Capitol trying to avoid the press. But before the Senate committee waiving immunity, Roselli was fully cooperative.
Do you think the CIA killed Sam Giancana because of what he knows?
Starting in 1960 to try to kill Castro.
You think?
By poison, by rifle, trying to land hit teams by powerboat, one of the boats sunk by a Cuban patrol vessel. Chairman Frank Church found Roselli's first-hand account vivid but not complete.
You can't just look at the pieces, folks. Okay? You can't just be so close to the pieces that you think one piece is the puzzle. That's how close you are, right? When you look at certain things, because you're just so curious and full of this fucking wondrous stupidity that you walk across fire for no reason, because it's here, right? So when you pull it back away a little bit, like, you know, like you can't read, you know, my entire hand when it's that close, but when you pull it back a little bit, okay, made. You can see the letters. Do you see my point? The information is the same thing, my dears. All right? Truth is one thing. And if you manipulate it one time and it benefits you, then you'll manipulate it again. Fucking kidding me?
He identified no one other than the government officials with which he dealt. That is to say, he identified no one else by name, but he did fill out the chronology and gave us a great deal of detail.
Was he in a position named government officials any higher than those in the CIA?
No, he was not.
What Roselli didn't know is who gave the CIA its orders, and it's because of this vagueness of command channels that the Senate committee is fighting with the White House over National Security Council and other documents. Daniel Shaw, CBS News, Washington.
Yesterday, Frank Church, chairman of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, said the White House was holding up the investigation of the CIA by not providing requested documents. Today, a White House spokesman...
This is from the It's the same record. Over and 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 over. Some of you are just too young to see it.
Replied with some heat that the charge is just not...
And that's why you get all caught up in some simpleton shit. You know, because it's too close to your face. Pull it away from your face a little bit. That's where the truth is not here. It's right around here.
True that White House staff people are working overtime, going through documents, he said, to determine their relevance. And today, the committee heard an underworld figure named John Roselli talk about his part in an alleged CIA plot against Fidel Castro. Ford Rowan reports.
John Roselli was given heavy police protection. The one-time member of Al Capone's gang was called to testify about an alleged CIA plot in the early 1960s to kill Fidel Castro. The plot allegedly involved Sam Momo Giancana, who was murdered last week.
That's right,
Chairman
Denise.
Church said Roselli gave details but did
That's right.
not name everyone involved.
He was worried that to name certain people other than the government people might endanger their lives.
Did Roselli give you any information to substantiate or to refute the allegations of assassination plots?
Well, there was no refutation in his testimony today.
So there was some confirmation that there is something to these allegations?
I think that
what's that smell? Oh,
fact
is that smell? Is that the smell of peasant? Yes.
Previously, I will state it again.
I will state it again. I smell peasant.
CIA was involved in both assassination plots and assassination attempts.
Church declined to be specific, but sources say the alleged plots against Castro are among the most intriguing, involving the mafia, a former aide to billionaire Howard Hughes, the CIA,
the stories are the same. The characters are different.
The committee
guys.
now is trying to find out if presidents of the United States were also involved in any assassination plots. Ford Rowan, NBC News, Washington.
Senator George McGovern, who recently visited Cuba, told a news conference today that Fidel Castro believed the CIA had been involved in a series of plots on his life. And those alleged plots spanned 4 administrations: Eisenhower, Kennedy, Johnson, and Nixon. A former undercover CIA operative made public details of one plot involving the mafia. Daniel Shaw reports.
Senator McGovern showed newsmen and sent the Senate Intelligence Committee Fidel Castro's own entry in the assassination investigation, accounts of 24 plots against him, allegedly CIA-inspired, starting in 1960, the last he claimed when he visited Chile in 1971. The document quoted confessions of alleged would-be killers, mostly Cubans. The reported weapons range from dynamite to a gun hidden in a television camera. McGovern said that since many of these plots went on after the 1961 Bay of Pigs and after Kennedy pledges of nonviolence, the question was if the CIA acted on its own.
I have no way of verifying these allegations, but if they are true, I think it's clear the CIA has been engaged in the most shocking, murderous, and un-American activities against the leaders of a neighboring state.
I mean,
and I find such
you
behavior a complete contradiction of the basic principles of this country.
Absolutely.
Not included in Castro's catalog was...
Hey guys, keep in mind I have a series coming up of 5 NSA programs that you should know. So we're going to start talking about how the intelligence community, and you guys think you have privacy. Oh, come in, sit down, grab yourself a snack. Welcome.
The plot that Robert Mayu finally told in public today after testifying with immunity before the Senate Committee.
Fractal.
Disclosing he'd been on the CIA's payroll since 1954, Mayu said that in '60, as part of the Bay of Pigs planning, he was asked by his project officer to contact mafia figure John Roselli to help in Castro's removal.
How can CIA infiltrate the mob? CIA is
in a Miami Beach hotel, they laid a plan, later aborted, to get a poison pellet to Havana.
My only understanding was that the capsules were to be given to someone, and the someone I didn't know then and never have known since, who was in a position to
Cronkite, well, that's
be
what you
close enough to Castro so that it could be administered if need be.
Mayu said for 6 years he got $500.
Bada bing, bada boom, bada bang.
A month from the CIA to use his consultants firm as a cover for agency operations. And in 1966, when he went to work for Howard Hughes in Las Vegas, his new employer wanted him to set up a big CIA covert operation.
When I asked him why, he said that he felt that he wanted this kind of protection from the government in case he ever became involved in any serious problem with any agency of the government.
What Hughes wanted, said Mayhew, was a CIA operation he could threaten to blow as a way of forcing concessions from the government. Mayhew said he didn't set up the covert operation for Hughes. Whether it turned out to be the Glomar Explorer, the submarine-raising ship, Mayhew didn't know. Daniel Shaw, CBS News, Washington.
Radio and the newspapers should not be admitted, that the hearings should be closed. Can you tell us what your feelings are about this and why?
Well, yes, so Symington serves on that committee and Muskie, but Muskie, of course, in the preservation of a free society, than holding the police, including the federal police, to the strictest standards.
Oh, absolutely.
Lest we slip into the practices of a police state.
Lest we. God.
I think that all members of the committee would be agreed.
What year was this? I mean, listen to what he's saying. My darlings, listen.
To the strictest standards, lest we slip into the practices of a police state.
You know, I came on just because you asked, okay? So, all the way from Ireland. We're going to post your shamrocks. All right? Let me tell you something about Irish girls. I'm going to tell you another time.
I think that all members of the committee would be agreed on that principle. And we must determine, first of all, whether any of these agencies have strayed from these standards. Either.
Hey, you make that Irish soda bread. That's good stuff. Okay? That Irish soda bread. I don't know if anybody here has ever had Irish soda bread. But I had a buddy, and he was an Irish kid. Well, the Italian neighborhood and the Irish neighborhood were right on the board. We'd fight and then we'd eat. So go over there, and I get that Irish soda bread, man, and she made some kind of fucking, it was his grandmother, man. And we always went over, it was always over to my house because my grandmother was there cooking Italian food. You never were like, oh, let's go get some Irish food, right? But let me tell you something. This old broad, God bless her soul, made this Irish soda bread. I have never had anything like it. Very much like the Dutch butter cake from Pennsylvania. Anyway, I digress.
Outside or
hungry.
inside the United States, whether their activities have gone beyond their authority under the law. And then we must determine what legislative remedies should be pursued, if these are indeed the facts.
Ends left by the water.
I'm going to zip this forward a little bit here. Get right to the
course of our proceedings.
Senator, do you think you should take any extraordinary efforts to...
Now look at what senators did back then, man. They said no.
Yes,
we
I
need
think
to make this up. See,
every effort should be made.
What
in
has
the
gotten
selection
done?
Of the committee staff and in the procedures adopted by the committee itself to avoid leaks. It would be even
how many times
more
have we heard
vital, I
this?
think, in the case.
I
of
mean,
this
just in the past few years, from
undertaking
senators
to prevent leaks, if at all possible, than it was in the case of the Watergate investigation.
And Senator Mansfield said at one point he didn't want any presidential candidates on this committee. Are you, as you join the committee, renouncing any thoughts you might have had about the presidential nomination in 1976?
I certainly don't intend to mix my responsibilities on this committee with any kind of presidential campaign. And as long as this committee lives, I will see to it that no such conflict exists.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is part one. We are just bringing you in to the JFK connections between the mafia, the CIA, and even people like the Brad Pack, Frank Sinatra. We're going to get into that in part two. And I'm so glad you can make it as well. I want to thank you guys for coming out here tonight. Hopefully you will like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and next week this is what I'm going to do. Soda bread is the best. Look at that. And she made some kind of stew. I don't know, some soup. I don't know what was in it. I don't know. It was rainbows and goats. I don't know what the hell was in there, but it was delicious. But that's okay. And we are actually going to get into some of the Irish mafia as well in this series as we go on through Mafia Mondays. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I had such a great time, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. Next week, like I said, I'm going to make a dish, and I'm going to enjoy it with you. So next week on Mafia Monday, right after Will's show, right around 9:10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we are going to, man, I am hungry. You're making me even more hungry. Michelle, talk about the soda bread. Listen to this, you guys. Look at this. Warm with butter. I'm probably going to go eat an entire loaf of bread right now and an entire stick of butter. I don't even know why I'm going to. I don't even need to spread the butter on the bread. I can just bite the butter, essentially, which is what's going to happen. So again, next week, speaking of breads and things, I'm going to make some spaghetti and meatballs. And I'm going to be enjoying that while we're having Mafia Monday. So you guys grab a piece of pizza, grab yourself a little garlic bread, grab yourself some, so if you want to go keto, do some salami or some prosciutto, and we'll make another one of it next week. All right, guys? So thank you so much. And next week, part two of basically Sam Giancana, Frank Sinatra, the assassination of JFK. All right, so join me next time. Thank you so much, you guys. I really do appreciate it. I can't do it without you. And until next time, God, I have my stomach growling. Listen how hungry I am. Until next time, thank you for joining me. I am Tony D, your host. This is the Veritas Machine, where the proof meets the truth, baby. Full send. The truth. The truth set you free. Set you free. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. And let me know what dishes you guys want to see. Put it in the comments. I'll make it. I'll make it right here. You want olio? I'll make it.
Age of universal deceit, telling the truth.
Lasagna. Monogoat.
Revolutionary act.
You know, maybe we'll even bring a little gabagol. A little gabagol. And have a little salumi plate. Man, I'm hungry. That's because I've been working hard today. We never, ever will be defeated. Because we're together. Strength in numbers, baby. The truth will set you free. Until next time, thank you so much. Veritas.